Hi, I'm Jim Surace. This is the Grind Spiritual Sunday. Today's message is a continuation of last week, part two of the question: is this God or is it Satan? Today I'm going to tell a story from the Word, the Old Testament. It happened thousands of years ago about a man named Joseph. Joseph had 11 brothers. He was the son of Jacob, the grandson of Isaac, and a great grandson of Abraham. Anyways, Joseph had favor from his dad, Jacob, and also favor from God. In fact, one night, Joseph had a dream that his brothers, 11 brothers, were lined up, bowing down before him, just kind of giving him an idea of his favor and how he was elevated in his family. Well, it wasn't long before the brothers caught word of Joseph's dream and they became extremely jealous, not only because of the favor of the father, but also because of the dream. Well, one day they happened to catch Joseph out and about and actually took him and threw him into a well. And then eventually, after some days, sold him, decided that, well, let's sell him into slavery. So they sold them to someone who actually was the captain of the guards that served Pharaoh, who was the king of Egypt. And he sold him as a slave. And so, at this point, you might think, well, geez, is this God or is this Satan? What's going on with Joseph? Is it God trying to teach him something? Is it Satan oppressing him because of the favor of God? So you might imagine that Joseph might be considering those thoughts. Anyways, Joseph, being the righteous man that he was and a godly man, soon gained favor also in Potiphar's household. Potiphar was the one who bought him as a slave. And it wasn't long before Potiphar put him as head of his household. And so, certainly the favor of God, right? But it wasn't long before Potiphar's wife had a fancy for Joseph. He was a handsome young man, and she made advances towards him. But Joseph pushed her off time and time again. In fact, even said to her after one of the advances, said, "How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?" Well, after so many times that Joseph pushed her away, she became angry and scorned and decided to come up with a lie against Joseph to kind of to get back at him. And so she told the fellow servants, she told them that Joseph tried to rape her. Well, when Potiphar, head of the household, came home, the servants told Potiphar that Joseph tried to make sport of his wife. And he became angry because he trusted Joseph and he believed his wife. So he had Joseph thrown into prison. Certainly at that time, I would imagine that Joseph was thinking about, like what's happening to him. He's just being a good man and this stuff is coming upon him. Well, Joseph was in prison for years. And there happened a short while after that there was two servants of Pharaoh, king of the land, that were also thrown into prison. One night, both of these servants had a dream, and they were discussing the dream, and they heard that Joseph was an interpreter of dreams, so they went to Joseph, and Joseph interpreted their dreams exactly what they meant, and it was true. They came true. Well, after a while, they were released back into Pharaoh's household. And, everything was fine. A couple of years went by, but one night, Pharaoh had a dream that when he woke up caused him frustration and angst because he couldn't figure out what that dream was all about. It bothered him. It was so intense. So he called his magic practicing priests and he called his wise men all together, told them the dream, and asked if they would interpret. None of them could interpret the dream. Well, one of the servants that was in prison with Joseph, who had their dream interpreted, overheard what was going on, and he went to Pharaoh and he says, "Hey, I was in prison with a fellow by the name of Joseph who interpreted my dream accurately." And so Pharaoh sent for Joseph, And Joseph came in front of Pharaoh, king of the land. And so Pharaoh told him the dream. He said, I heard you're an interpreter of dreams. Interpret this dream. And what Joseph did, and the dream's interpretation was that there would be 7 years of plenty of harvest and goodness upon Egypt. But then it would be followed by 7 years of famine. And then Joseph told Pharaoh, um, and Pharaoh was really excited about Joseph's interpretation. It seemed it reverberated with him that that was true. And but Joseph said to him, well, inasmuch as God has shown you all this, not me, but God has shown you all this, there's that and Joseph came up with some wisdom and told Pharaoh that, kind of gave him like an idea of what to do. He says, since you're going to have 7 years of plenty, you should hire someone who would oversee the storing of goods for those 7 years. So when the 7 years of famine come, there'll be plenty. So Pharaoh said to Joseph, since, as you said, that God has shown this to you, all this to you, there's no one as discerning and wise as you. You shall be over my house, and all of my people shall be ruled according to your word. Only in regard to the throne will I be greater than you. And then Pharaoh said to Joseph, see, I've set you over the entire land of Egypt. So Joseph was over the whole land of Egypt, and had 7 years of plenty stored up, so much that they had more than what they needed as a country. And when the whole land went into famine, many other kings from other countries came to Joseph in order to get from their plenty because they did not store up. So Joseph, what he did was he gave them in exchange for land, and Egypt grew in countryside as well as in favor. And it came to a point that Joseph's very brothers were in another land that was under the famine, and they heard that Egypt had this great storehouse of plenty. So they actually went to Egypt and eventually ended up in Joseph's court and asking Joseph, their brother, who they thought, was still a slave, had no idea what happened to him. And here he is, he's heading up Egypt, and Joseph's brothers are bowing before him, asking for part of the plenty that was stored up in Egypt. And so it goes all the way back to the dream that Joseph had in the beginning, the dream with the brothers bowing before him. So it came to fruition. Now, all through that story, something like that happened to you, where you just, tried to do the right thing, but then you're in this valley, in this adversity, and you wonder why, that's happening. Understand that as children of God, we have his favor. And so no matter how things look, in fact, one of my favorite Proverbs is chapter 3, verses 5 and 6, which says, and this is what Joseph did, trust in the Lord, lean not on your own understanding, but in all your ways acknowledge him, and he will set your path straight. Trust in the Lord. Lean not on the reality of the moment, but just acknowledge God's name and everything, and he's going to make it all work out. The word of God says, if God be for you, who could be against you? And there was so much that was coming against Joseph, but God's favor elevated him out of every single situation because Joseph trusted God and looked to God for his sustenance, for his delivery, for his favor, because he knew that God would take care of him. So the challenge to all of us today is that no matter what the situation, we need to reflect upon Joseph's life and understand that no matter how bad things look or how unfair that it is, even if you suffered abuse or offense, that you can always trust that God will set your path straight. In fact, the Word of God says what was meant for evil, God will turn to good. That's the message for today. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May his face shine upon you. May the Lord overwhelm you with supernatural faith and trust in him, that no matter what your situation is, God has not taken his eyes off of you. He's not gotten busy in Mozambique or someplace. Now, Jesus said, lo, I will be with you even till the end of time. May the Lord bless you.
Subscribe today at simonarias.net.